What a pleasant surprise. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Joseph Kendo here. Within the confines of STEM and the mind of Ruvik lies an old service revolver whose former role stood as a standard-issued sidearm of the Krimson City Police Department, now found to be the selected pistol carried within the shoulder holster of Detective Sebastian Castellanos. While it's not the only pistol to be equipped in the hands of Sebastian, it's the most recognizable due to its classic design and rudimentary performance, lending itself to be an ideal choice for the survival horror genre. Now that we have this weapon all the way from Krimson City, let's take a look into its unique traits and implementations that make this revolver special as the most iconic weapon in The Evil Within. After receiving an emergency call about an incident at the Beacon Mental Hospital, Detective Sebastian Castellanos and partners Joseph Oda and Julie Kidman are sent out to investigate multiple homicides reported at the institution, driven to the scene by Krimson City police officer Oscar Connolly. Upon arriving at their destination, Sebastian is assumed to have this revolver concealed within his trench coat as the three begin to inspect the aftermath of the scene. Although upon entering the facility, Sebastian is confronted by an unexpected encounter to render him unconscious, later finding himself disarmed, with nothing more than a knife to escape from this entrapment. However, soon after in Chapter 2, Sebastian comes across a tent with a police-issued revolver placed several feet behind its original owner, Oscar Connolly, which is then used to dispatch the haunted officer, and from here on, this revolver now becomes the destined sidearm of Sebastian for the entirety of the game. Once obtained, it can now be examined with its description reading, "This is an old-fashioned police service revolver. Most police agencies have switched over to automatic pistols, but a few officers continue to use revolvers." The revolver found in The Evil Within appears as a familiar design, but like most of the firearms in the series, it borrows design cues from real-life weapons and combines them to create an amalgamated model. The two revolvers likely to be used to create this unique design are the Smith & Wesson Model 25 and Colt Model 1917 revolver, both chambered in .45 ACP as the game's standard handgun ammunition. While Smith & Wesson also made 1917 revolvers, the gun's frames are both mechanically and aesthetically different, and the revolver in-game borrows its features from the Colt version, while utilizing the barrel, sights, and grips from the Smith & Wesson Model 25. One of the more notable features of this revolver can be seen by taking a closer look behind the cylinder latch. This revolver features the Krimson City Police badge embossed on the left side of the frame, serving as a very believable depiction of a police-issued revolver. In The Evil Within, the revolver is the default handgun of the game, and as a survival horror title, players should expect to focus on stealth instead of engagement, only to use this revolver with ammo conservation in mind. Though if you find yourself to be faced with hard resistance in need of deadly force, your revolver may come to save the day. In use, players should expect to deal low to moderate damage in the early stages of the game, so it's best to have your aim dialed in and make your shots count by keeping them centered on weak points for critical damage. But at certain parts of the game where a reflection can be found, Sebastian is transported to a safe haven, being an abbreviated version of Beacon Mental Hospital. Here he meets a nurse named Tatiana Gutierrez, who grants Sebastian access to a mysterious restrainment chair that provides him with the means to upgrade his own abilities, as well as his arsenal. The revolver's firepower, fire rate, reload speed, capacity, accuracy, and critical hit chance can all be upgraded. And once the revolver has been maxed out, it becomes a true power player, dishing out substantial damage. And when combined with the enhanced critical abilities, it can take out most of the haunted with one well-placed shot. In-game, we're not given enough leverage to view this weapon in detail, although upon the game's completion, the model viewer will be unlocked in the main menu, allowing a closer inspection and to give us a little more information on this revolver, with the expanded description adding, "Revolver carried by Officer Connolly. It doesn't appear to have been used often. Perhaps there wasn't much opportunity." Released 3 years after the original title, players return to the role of Sebastian Castellanos in The Evil Within 2, albeit a much more lost and rugged version after the events of the first game. We are reintroduced to Sebastian in a local bar, later to be confronted by former partner Julie Kidman, to which he responds by drawing his revolver in her direction, which calls the attention of her guards and results in a brief confrontation that leads to Sebastian becoming disarmed and subdued. Players will find out quickly that this revolver did not make its comeback as the starting handgun for the game, but rather the semi-automatic 1911. Although there is still a way for Sebastian to reunite with his trusty revolver, but it can only be obtained through the Anima side quests, which are optional to the main story and must be completed in sequence, or it will be missed entirely. Starting in Chapter 3, after investigating the pit stop, you will eventually come across a radio signal broadcasting from 336 Cedar Avenue.
It's coming. It's coming. Walls won't stop it. Doors won't stop it. Nothing will. Can't hide from it. It's coming.
Upon arrival and entering this abandoned home, a journal written by the woman from the broadcast can be found in one of the rooms. Once read, the temperature drops below freezing, and while attempting to leave, a disheveled figure reveals herself to Sebastian, introduced as Anima, who forces him into an illusion of the Beacon Mental Hospital, which you must escape to make your way back to Union. Our next encounter occurs at the Juke Diner during Chapter 7. Upon entering and witnessing the memories of the suicide victim, when Sebastian tries to leave the building, a jukebox will suddenly turn on, and when attempting to examine it, Anima will reach to attack Sebastian, taking him back to Beacon Mental Hospital. Once again, you will have to survive her trap to return safely to Union. The last encounter with Anima will occur in the restricted labs of the Marrow in Chapter 11. As Sebastian is exploring an abandoned part of the labs, he comes across an old terminal, and after examining it, he encounters Anima as he's making his way out of the mine shaft. Anima forces him into a final hallucination, this time using her full abilities to try to put an end to the former detective. While able to escape her mind games once and for all, Sebastian is soon faced by a mirror version of himself, as he appeared during the events of the first game. Sebastian realizes that the source of his pain is kept within a part of himself that's still trapped inside STEM, and that he must put an end to his prior self with the pull of a trigger.
My trusty revolver. Haven't seen you in a long time.
Once obtained, this questline is now finally complete, and you will have the revolver in your inventory, and upon examination, its description reads, Sebastian's sidearm of choice. It's less accurate than the semi-automatic handgun, but it does more damage. It uses the same ammunition as the semi-automatic handgun. This revolver is now able to be equipped from Chapter 11 onward, and in subsequent New Game Plus runs. In use, the revolver is fired one-handed, and its damage exceeds the 1911's along with its rate of fire and headshot capabilities. Although as a payoff, the reticle focus is larger and the reload speed is slower than the 1911 and the rest of the handguns in the game. But it's certainly the weapon to choose if you prioritize style over performance, due to it matching Sebastian's classic detective attire and eccentric reload animation. Even though the revolver of the first game may not have truly been Sebastian's own, we feel its rightful owner deserves to be the man who brought the most use to this weapon, with it aiding our protagonist to survive the nightmare manifested by Ruvik's mind. While we have no way to confirm if the revolver obtained in the sequel belonged to Oscar or Sebastian, it feels right at home within the style of a noir-era detective, and we can be sure that Sebastian knows his way around this weapon, confidently using it to his advantage, even in the confines of STEM. So, that's it for Sebastian's trusty revolver, the service-issued weapon to serve and protect Krimson City in The Evil Within. Be sure to check out our brand new KendoGunShop merchandise. Our first line of signature shirts and stickers are now available. You can find the link to the shop down below. If you'd like to help the KendoGunShop expand its business past Raccoon City, share the video with your friends to help spread the word, or feel free to leave us a tip over at our Patreon, link in the description. Make sure to leave us a comment on what guns from the series you'd like to see a video on next, and don't forget to come back and visit us at the gun shop for more content about the firearms,